damage from getting worse.
Enbrel gives me energy to do many of the things I love.
Because prescription Enbrel suppresses your immune system, it may lower your ability to fight infections such as the flu. So don't start it if you have one. Tell your doctor if you're prone to infections, have an open sore, have had hepatitis B, have been treated for heart failure, or if, while on Enbrel, you experience persistent fever, bruising, bleeding, or paleness. Serious, sometimes fatal events including infections, tuberculosis, lymphoma, and nervous system and blood disorders have occurred.
Ask your rheumatologist and envision your possibilities with Enbrel.
You can buff up, clean up, but you can't cover up that bald spot. Instead of hiding it, solve it with Men's Rogaine Foam. In clinical testing, 85% of men regrew hair. Men's Rogaine Foam. Use it or lose it.
Once a month, you pay the phone bill, feed the orchid, visit Aunt Agnes. You can also do something important for your bones. Help prevent and treat postmenopausal osteoporosis with new once-a-month Actonel. Now in a single monthly dose, Actonel is proven to help reverse bone loss and can help increase bone strength to help prevent fractures. You should not take prescription Actonel if you have low blood calcium, severe kidney disease, or cannot sit or stand for 30 minutes. Follow dosing instructions carefully. Stop taking Actonel and tell your doctor if you experience difficult or painful swallowing, chest pain, or severe or continuing heartburn, as these may be signs of serious upper digestive problems. Promptly tell your doctor if you develop severe bone, joint, or muscle pain, or if you develop dental problems, as rarely jaw problems have been reported. Once a month, you get your favorite magazine, have a girls' night out, and you can also do something important to help protect your bones. Ask your doctor about new once-a-month Actonel.
Tomorrow, as America wakes up to a new president-elect, all the results and reaction from around the country. Tomorrow on Today on NBC.
Our job is to make sense of it. This is what we do.
The top of the news tonight is the NBC projection that Governor Ray, the incumbent governor of the state of...
Good evening, I'm Erin Kiernan.
And I'm John Bachman. We've been following this breaking news all night long. News Center 13 Scott Pope joins us now with the Live Eye.
It's the big story today, affecting everybody.
New technology, first such as Live Eye, our mobile transmitter receiver.
The Channel 13 News studio with some breaking news.
And taking a look at the national map,
our live mega Doppler shows the bulk of the precipitation is...
Well, they call them the franchise in Baltimore.
I was just honestly the greatest place ever.
And we're dreaming of tomorrow.
News is never static. Neither is News Center.
Fantastic production studio, isn't it?
Instead of waiting till later in the show.
From WHO TV, this is Channel 13 News.
Back here at our headquarters in New York tonight, as Election Day 08 has been sliding into election night, we've had correspondents, camera crews around the country, and we have two reports tonight on how the voters assess these two candidates. We begin with NBC's Rahima Ellis.
Selma, Alabama today is a small city at peace, but 97-year-old Amelia Boynton Robinson has known a different Selma.
It was on Sunday, March the 7th, 1965.
Robinson was among hundreds of nonviolent marchers beaten down by state troopers on what's called Bloody Sunday.
The second lick he gave me was at the base of my neck, and I fell to the ground.
Standing up now for Barack Obama, Robinson says it's a privilege she knew would come.
A voteless people is a hopeless people.
What happened here in Selma led to the historic Voting Rights Act of 1965. But for many, real equality would remain just a dream. In 1967 in Detroit, 40 died, 5,000 were left homeless. Abdullah El Amin was jailed for curfew violations. Now he sees America beyond her segregated past.
To come from that to this is something that we all should be proud of.
In Watts, California, Lacine Holland watched her community burn. Today, she proudly takes her great-grandchildren to the polls.
If they want to make changes, you always go out and vote.
Back in Selma, Amelia Boynton Robinson says the sacrifices of the civil rights movement have helped Barack Obama, but she also credits a higher power.
Definitely. Definitely. I think this is a miracle.
Rahima Ellis, NBC News, Selma, Alabama.
This is Roger O'Neill in Florida. We're like the dice game bunco. John McCain needs all the numbers to align just right if he hopes to prove the polls wrong. He needs a huge turnout of his base, veterans, business people, and women. And to find those voters, look no further than Pensacola, the cradle of naval aviation, where McCain and fellow Navy man, retired Captain John Kane, learned to be pilots.
I see Senator McCain as tested and proven. I know where he's been. I know the footsteps he's trod in.
Like many veterans, Kane is voting national security.
With McCain, I see a steadier hand on the tiller.
Navigating through the economy is small business owner Dennis Paday's focus. For him, the election is about experience.
He will tax me less. He will regulate me less. Barack Obama is trying to act like Robin Hood. He wants to take from the rich to give to the poor.
For women, shattering the glass ceiling with a woman in the White House gets their vote.
My phone began ringing off the hook.
The Palin factor for Mary Jo Strauss energized the base.
It was just the shot in the arm that our campaign needed.
Like an old-fashioned poker game, McCain supporters here thought he had a pretty good hand. Strong on national security, strong on experience, 2 aces. And when he picked Sarah Palin, that was 3 of a kind. But then the dealer turned over the joker. And now the question is, will the state of the national economy trump everything? Roger O'Neill, NBC News, in the Florida Panhandle.
We are back in a moment with the sights and sounds of a history-making presidential election day.
There's a place out there that's different. A place whose people understand that the word welcome is more than a greeting. That the things you can't count for everything. That life is in the details. So when you come to this place and find that the details of your life are treated as all that matters, you'll understand the difference between a hotel and a Hyatt. And you will say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the people there will smile and humbly reply, you're more than welcome.
And the secret to perfect stuffing is this, but it's an old family secret.
So don't tell anyone.
I promise. Want to hear a secret?
Trusted for generations, the secret to perfect holiday stuffing is Swanson broth.
To wipe out a big cold, immerse yourself in total cold relief with Alka-Seltzer Plus. It speeds relief to every inch of you. Liquidate your big cold with Alka-Seltzer Plus.
I'm Mark Goldston, Chairman and CEO of Net Zero. All internet providers take you to the same internet, so why pay more to get there? Net Zero is only $9.95 a month, and we give you a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-NET-ZERO or visit netzero.com.
This fiber, I'd had my fill. Then I found Miralax. Miralax relieves constipation with no bloating, no excess gas, no taste, no grit. You'll see, it's clearly different.
Restore your body's natural rhythm with Miralax.
Wherever good can overcome, that is where your contributions to the Salvation Army go.
Remember to vote and then watch your vote count.
Brian Williams, Tom Brokaw, and the entire NBC News team.
Plus, Channel 13 news reporters live and ready with the local races.
Coverage begins tonight at 5 on Channel 13.
Price of legal dumping, Channel 13 news investigation, Wednesday at 10.
We're back here in New York, and one more reminder here. We are about 5 minutes away from the first calls, the first state calls, and the first polls closing, so be sure to stay with us. This campaign, this election, both go down in history. Just what is here tonight, what's been made over the last 22 months or so. This will always be a history-making election day in American history. Millions lined up to vote for a new president today. And we'll close this half hour with a look at this day from NBC's George Lewis.
Good morning, and welcome.
They opened the floodgates this morning at voting places across the country. And as Matt Lauer put it on the Today Show,
and by all indications, when you go to vote, you're going to have a lot of company.
Up to 140 million Americans lined up, often for hours. Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, a McCain supporter, was one of the faces in the crowd on the sidewalks of New York, where people are used to long lines. It was the same story on the other end of the country. At this polling place in Los Angeles, a couple hundred people lined up before dawn to be among the first to vote. Gerald Washington arrived at 10 minutes to 5 a.m.
Because it's very, very important that you be here. This is a very historic time.
As the Spanish-language newspaper La Opinión headlined the historic vote, 86-year-old Maria Reyes, originally from El Salvador, cast her first ballot in an American election. It wasn't easy for her. She has Parkinson's disease. Reyes was sworn in as a new citizen in August, helped by her daughter Elvia.
It's the wonderful man for our country right now, Obama. Viva Obama. Obama.
In Southern California's Little Saigon, Vietnamese Americans turned out to support John McCain because they say they are indebted to him.
Mr. McCain and I grew up and fought the same war in Vietnam.
I'm here with your ballot.
In Fort Worth, Texas, Zula Deers voted from a hospital bed. Some were in a festive mood. Uncle Sam in Shreveport, Louisiana, and the McCain versus Obama turtle race in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This as millions of voters moved at a turtle's pace through those long lines. George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And that is Nightly News for this evening. As we thank you for being with us, we also remind you we are just getting started. Coming up next, Decision 2008 election night. Polls are scheduled to close in the first 6 states, including battlegrounds, Indiana and Virginia. One last warning, those who haven't voted, go out and vote, but join us for our all-night coverage.
Where will you be when history is made? When the votes are counted, when America chooses its new leader. Be with NBC. Moment-to-moment Election Day coverage anchored by Brian Williams with Tom Brokaw and the best of NBC News. Decision 08 coming up next.
Looking back at past elections, Iowa's most experienced voters reflect on their earliest voting memories.
And a woman could pull off Iowa history tonight. Becky Greenwald tries to upset 7-term Congressman Tom Latham to become Iowa's first Congresswoman.
It's been a long, hard-fought campaign for the last couple years, and today is finally here, and I'm very excited.
The campaign's kicked into high gear during January's Iowa caucuses, and now Election Day has come as Iowans cast their ballots in this historic election.
From WHO TV, this is Channel 13 News at 6.
The commercials, campaign visits, and political phone calls are complete. Today, it's all about your vote. Iowans still have 3 hours to cast a ballot. Good evening, I'm John Bachman.
And I'm Erin Kiernan. The polls just closed in the first 6 states. In Iowa, of course, the polls close at 9.
And tonight, we are live at both Republican and Democratic headquarters. But first, we go to Lynn Melling, where state leaders are expecting record voter turnout. Lynn?
That's right, John. Election officials expect more Iowans than ever before will vote in this election. Right now, we're at the Polk County Auditor's office, where workers are still answering phone calls, answering questions, and collecting those absentee ballots. You have until 9 o'clock to turn in your absentee ballot. A record 533,000 absentee ballots have been turned in so far across the state, breaking the previous record of 460,000. Now, today in the basement of Hy-Vee Hall, Polk County workers counted a record 70,332 absentee ballots. That's just for Polk County. So far, state and county leaders are not reporting any major problems with ballots or long lines. 45 minutes was the longest line Secretary of State Michael Morrow was aware of today, and that was in Story County. Also, same-day registration didn't seem to cause many headaches. This is the first presidential election for same-day registration here in Iowa, and Morrow says that will help Iowa break its voter turnout record.
The 80% record, we have that once before in 1992, but when you're doing percentages, it was a lot less registered voters. So when so we're going to have, what I can say tonight is we're going to have the most voters that ever participated in an election in Iowa. But we also have more voter registrations than we've had in the past. So percentage-wise might be not top 1992, but number of voters voting will be a record.
Now, Morrow says the polls will see a surge in voter turnout starting right about now over the dinner hour. You have until 9 o'clock to get in line at your polling place in order to vote. Also, you need to turn in those absentee ballots before 9 o'clock. But election officials say other than the normal minor problems like confusion over where precincts are, they say no major problems have been reported so far today. John?
Okay, that's great word. Thanks very much, Lynn.
As the Secretary of State said, Iowans are closing in on a record turnout. Michael Morrow predicts about 75% of registered voters will participate in this year's election. And the Secretary mentioned the election of 1992, a record 80% of voters turned out then when Bill Clinton defeated George H.W. Bush. 72% of registered voters cast a ballot in 2000 and 2004, and in 1996, that number was 71%.
Now, as Brian Williams mentioned on NBC News just a few moments ago, the presidential vote could soon be decided in 6 states. Polls closed in Indiana, Kentucky, Georgia, South Carolina, Vermont, and Virginia just moments ago. And we have early reports now from the AP. The AP is awarding Kentucky to McCain and Vermont to Obama, and Georgia, South Carolina, and Virginia are too close to call. We'll pass along any more results as we get them. The polls close in the critical state of Ohio and 2 other states in less than a half hour. Florida is in the next group of 16 states where polls close at 7 o'clock Iowa time. Voting ends in Arkansas at 7:30. Another 15 states will see polls close at 8 o'clock. Iowa and 3 other states will finish an hour later. And the final big wave of states will come at 10 o'clock, and Alaska finishes at midnight.
Whew.
Yeah. Iowa U.S. Senator Tom Harkin took his shot at the presidency in 1992, but tonight he's going for a 5th term in the U.S. Senate. His challenger is relatively unknown.
And the presidential candidates have been running 2 very different campaigns here in the state. Sonia Heitsusen and Dave Price join us live from Republican and Democratic headquarters, respectively, for a look at what each candidate needs for a win. Hi, guys.
Hi, Erin. We're going to begin with the presidential race on the Republican side. John McCain faces an uphill battle here in Iowa. The polls were once so close, but in the last few weeks, he is now trailing Obama by double digits. He did not caucus here in Iowa, so that may be a strike against him. He did, however, or Bush, however, did win the state of Iowa back in 2004, so you never know. They may carry some of that momentum, perhaps, into this presidential race. Also, McCain has really stepped up his campaign stops here in Iowa in the last 2 weeks, with he and his running mate hitting the circuit here in about the last 2 weeks. Now, McCain needs heavy voter turnout from western Iowa, which is strongly Republican. He also needs heavy voter turnout from veterans. He, of course, is a veteran with a well-documented POW story. He also needs to get heavy voter turnout from those who are in favor of increased military spending. And let's not forget about the war in Iraq, those who do not agree with Obama's plans about pulling out of Iraq in a timely manner. Dave?
Well, Barack Obama just might have the most organized presidential campaign in Iowa ever, so he has to try to take advantage of that. They heavily targeted students, and they went after those occasional voters, those voters that don't show up every election. They hope to tap into this entire change message. It's part of his theme. It is his theme in this campaign. They think a lot of people will respond to that. In the end, though, they want to make sure that people do not get cocky. They've been up in the polls by double digits in Iowa. They don't want people to get complacent. They want them to show up.
Well, now looking at the Senate race here in Iowa, Dave, we want to look at Chris Reed, who is Tom Harkin's challenger. And let's be honest about this. He is a severe underdog in this race. He is running against a very well-known and very well-liked senator here in the state of Iowa. But hats off to him for throwing his hat into the race against such a political giant. What he needs here to show some good numbers in this race is a strong pro-life, strong conservative, strong Christian conservative turnout. He also also needs strong turnout from western Iowa as well. And he too may benefit from people who go in and vote the straight Republican ticket because of those close races in the presidential race as well as other U.S. Senate races.
Well, Sonia, Tom Harkin is used to these really tough fights, and his margin of victories in these races haven't normally been that big. That could change this time. In this case, his opponent is not very well known, doesn't have hardly any money. Even Republicans don't really know him very well at all. So Tom Harkin's campaign is feeling very confident with all kinds of age groups here: students, women, older voters, blue-collar voters. And in the end, if it's a very big Democratic turnout, they expect to have a very big win tonight.
All right, Dave Price and Sonia Heithusen reporting live from Democratic and Republican headquarters for tonight. Thanks so much. We'll be hearing more from both of you later tonight.
One of the other races that we're keeping a very close eye on is the 4th District congressional seat, where Iowa could send the first woman ever to Washington.
This is a history-making day, however we look at it, and so it would be fun to be part of that, but more important, it's what we want to do starting tomorrow and getting the work done for families in the 4th District.
Becky Greenwald did some last-minute campaigning this afternoon. Iowa and Mississippi are the only 2 states in the country not to have elected a woman governor, senator, or congressional representative, but incumbent Tom Latham, who is running for his 8th term, wants to keep his seat. He stopped by the McCain headquarters to rally some last-minute support, saying he's ignoring polls that show it's a close race.
The polls are one thing. What actually happens is on Election Day, that's the poll that counts, and when people actually get out to vote.
We have crews at both camps in Ames, and we'll have a live report at 10.
It's not just Washington. Iowa voters are also deciding who to send to the state capitol tonight. Channel 13's Dan Winters joins us now with a state Senate race that we should be keeping our eyes on. Dan.
That's right, Aaron. Even more so than the Iowa House, it would take a monumental upset for Republicans to gain control of the Iowa Senate. Check out the balance of power in the Senate right now. Going into tonight, the Democrats hold a 10-seat majority in that 50-member Senate. Tonight, Republicans don't want to lose any more ground. But here's one spot where they could. Voters in Marshall County and Hardin County have sent a Republican, Larry McKibben, to the Iowa Senate since 1997. This year, McKibben is out, and voters will choose between Jarrett Heil and the Democrat, Steve Sodders. There's a good reason to watch the returns in Marshalltown and Eldora closely tonight. McKibben barely won his last election. He brought in just 51% of the vote in those counties that are now trending Democratic. Now, tonight we're also going to be watching the key precincts across our state. Our insiders trying to gauge which way Iowa is going to break in the presidential race. In 2000, Iowa went to Al Gore, just like our neighbors here to the north and the east, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Illinois. In 2004, Iowa broke the other way for George Bush. That time we joined our neighbors to the south and the west, Missouri, Nebraska, and South Dakota. Now, this time around, we expect the upper Midwest to be more of a shakeup. This time, Missouri is in play for the Democrats. And Aaron, here's something interesting. Just one other state has Iowa's track record, going blue in 2000, red in 2004. It's New Mexico. Go figure.
That is interesting. A lot to keep track of, Dan. Yeah. We're glad you're over there at the touchscreen tonight. Thanks.
Our news team, along with Brian Williams, Tom Brokaw, and the entire NBC news team, will bring you the latest results as they come in on the air and on the web. We'll stream results live starting at 9 tonight. Look for all the latest political news at WHOTV.com.
Your first vote in a presidential election is a rite of passage for most Americans, and the memory usually stays with you. Andy Fales spent some time with a few Iowans who have quite a few elections under their belts.
Who's the first person that you voted for in a presidential election?
Eisenhower.
I think it was Eisenhower.
It was Dewey when Dewey and Truman were running.
For Dewey?
Yeah, at that time I voted for Dewey. Of course, he didn't win.
Yeah, but of course the newspaper said that he did win.
Yes, I remember that.
I think I voted for Wendell Willkie.
Who's that? I don't even know who that is.
I think he ran against Roosevelt.
What are your memories of that day?
Well, I believe I voted absentee because I think I was in the Navy.
It was so important to me that I dressed up to go vote. I really did.
I don't remember the day, but I voted for Eisenhower.
Okay. Do you remember how that felt?
Yeah, I was grown up.
Oh, such great stories.
Yeah, that's a great idea to do that. And of course, people got dressed up to go on planes and trains and to vote.
And all sorts of things, yes.
They don't do that now.
Not so much. No. I'll tell you, we did a little bit of history delving into our
Backtrack of weather. Look at these 70-degree temperatures from 76 to 64 to 52. On those election days, we were warm. We were warm today as well, 73, and temperatures hold on very well this evening. I'll have your 7-day.
The Hawks get ready to take on the legendary Joe Paterno and his Penn State team. Coming up in sports, hear what both sides have to say about the showdown at Kinnick.
And a woman accused of killing her 2-year-old son could use mental illness as part of her defense. Coming up, we'll tell you what prosecutors are saying about Michelle Kehoe's case.
Today, kids to school, it's my day to drive, get the carpets cleaned, dog to the vet, lunch with the girls, and by lunch, I mean triple fudge chocolate bliss, worth every minute in the gym. Get to the gym. Check out that open house, vaulted ceilings, big yard, big dog. Pay some bills, that's easy, and then start packing for our vacation. Great resort, no pets. Yeah, it's gonna be a great day.
Great Western Bank, making life great.
When you're ready to convert that old bathroom into the new bathroom of your dreams, call Rebath at 1-800-BATHTUB. Tired of that ugly, dirty old bathtub? Rebath will put a brand new bathtub right over the old one and repair any damage. Install gorgeous grout-free walls and save you money. All Rebath products are manufactured with superior materials, colors, and styles. At Rebath, bathroom remodeling is fast, affordable, and guaranteed.
Rebath, taking affordable bath remodeling to a whole new level.
Closed captioning is another way we keep you informed. Brought to you by the Iowa Clinic. The Ankeny Internal Medicine Office welcomes Dr. Lisa Jensen to their practice. Dr. Jensen is now accepting new patients. Call 964-7115 to schedule your appointment.
Is filling your water softener with salt costing you too much money? Culligan Smart Sensor technology saves you 2 tons of salt and 20,000 gallons of water over 10 years. And that's good for the environment.
Right now, get a Culligan water softener and receive free salt for a year.
Where there's hard work, you need a hard-working truck. That's why people all across America depend on Ford trucks, more than any truck out there. And now you can depend on Ford with the best offer ever. On the best truck for any job.
Now during truck season, get up to $8,000 cash back on a 2008 F-Series. Visit your Midwest Ford dealers or log on to yourmidwestforddealers.com today.
These are the trucks that are building America.
Spots are just downright annoying. The problem is hard water spots. But a Culligan water softener can help get rid of them throughout your home. So for better water, call your Culligan man today.
Right now, get a Culligan water softener and receive free salt for a year.
The man accused of killing his estranged wife and her friend will go to trial 3 months after the crime. Kyle Deemer is accused of killing Jessica Deemer and Bryce Mercer back in October.
Police say he forced the two off a rural Marshall County road and then shot them in a ditch. Deemer entered a written plea last Friday and waived his right to a speedy trial. A judge has now scheduled the trial for January 13th. Deemer is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Jessica Deemer and Mercer. A prosecutor expects a Coralville woman accused of killing her son to use a defense of postpartum depression. Michelle Kehoe is charged with first-degree murder, attempted murder, and child endangerment. She is accused of killing her 2-year-old son Seth and injuring her 7-year-old son Sean in October. Buchanan County Attorney Alan Vanderhart says he expects the defense will say that Kehoe was suffering from postpartum depression when she allegedly harmed her children. Kehoe will likely be taken into custody after she leaves the hospital.
A new report shows Des Moines should improve its crisis management plans. This after a review of the city's response to June flooding. The report also says workers should have better communication, and it recommends creating better plans for department relocation. More than 650 city employees were relocated over flooding concerns. The report was compiled by employees of the city manager's office. Iowa Agriculture Secretary Bill Northey says crops are benefiting from unusually warm weather. Northey says the warm sun and dry breeze in Iowa over the last week have helped dry out fields. He says southern Iowa still has a significant amount of corn and beans to get out of the field. In northern Iowa, Northey says almost all of the beans and half the corn has been harvested.
Well, maybe one more day to hustle out there in the field.
Get going.
They are moving like crazy right now, and they need to because rain is on the way. Another beautiful day, 73 the high, only 2 off of the record. A warm vote coming up. We'd love to keep that going, but the temperatures will be tumbling in the 7-day.
If your child is falling behind in school, if your child struggles with math or reading, let them blossom at Sylvan. Sylvan Learning Centers, an individualized approach tailored for each child to build exactly the skills your child needs to succeed. Guaranteed to improve math or reading skills by 1 full grade level equivalent in 36 hours of instruction.
Make this school year great with your Central Iowa Sylvan's Fall Special. Save $75 off your student's assessment. Call 1-800-EDUCATE today.
People have a lot on their minds. What can we do about climate change? How can I save on my energy bills? Should I go with the peach cobbler or the cherry pie? Thing is, everything you're talking about, Southwest Iowa REC is working out. As co-op members, we're all in this together, keeping the lights on and our costs down. Cherry pie, peach cobbler, you can't go wrong.
Whatever you're celebrating, there's something special at Perkins Restaurants, like our magnificent 7 breakfast, just $3.99 anytime at Perkins.
Parents need to ask themselves some questions. Does your teenager gamble? Do you think, hey, at least I know where he is. At least he's not out drinking and getting into any real trouble. That's what I told myself. Until my son flunked out of school and I caught him stealing money. But your family doesn't have to lose. You can get help. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF. I did. And I got my son back.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Photojournalist Jeff Felton capturing the state capitol, glowing in the sun today. We hope all of you got to get outside and enjoy it because it could be turning soon.
Yeah, tomorrow morning, okay, and then after that, whoa.
As a weather person, you're always glad when election day is calm.
Yes.
It needs to be calm somewhere.
Means we don't see much of you.
In the weather department, well, that's fine as well. It's good to take a back seat. 66-degree temperature right now with 47 our dew point. Our humidity is back up to around 50%, and that humidity is going to come into play the next couple of days. Showers, even thunderstorms. I just showed you the pictures of the farmers trying to get the crops out of the field. They are hustling because they know what we know. Out to the west of us, another storm system is brewing. It's been beautiful today, caught underneath this canopy of a stationary boundary, warm temperatures riding up over the state of Iowa. Big low pressure system will start to move in, though, the next couple of days, and it will give us not only the wind that we had today, but then showers, even stronger areas of thunderstorms. They're possible tomorrow afternoon and evening. We could see severe weather right up into western Iowa. That low pressure system is, again, ahead of much colder air. Take a look what's going to happen here. By 10 o'clock Thursday morning, you could see 5 to 6 inches of snow in South Dakota. Nebraska could see snow, freezing precipitation. It's sliding our way. We have a chance for that mixture of precip, especially Thursday night and again on Friday. We're waiting for this system to build in. It is going to be dramatically colder, though, as we go through the end of our week. 56 the overnight tonight. That's above where we should be for daytime highs. Amazing temperatures. Still going to be very breezy. Tonight into tomorrow, that wind picks up again. 67 will be the high. Showers and thunderstorms here as soon as around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then those thunderstorms crank up in the overnight. That cold air colliding with all the warm, humid conditions that we have here. 50 will be that overnight low. So we will have that chance for some of those isolated thunderstorms to become strong, possibly severe. There's a slight risk. Thursday into Friday, look at the temperature tumble. 53 to 40. Those are daytime highs. And in between the daytime, colder temperatures. So we have a chance for that rain-snow mix Thursday and again on Friday. No accumulation expected as far as snow, but we are hanging on to temperatures only in the 40s throughout your weekend into Monday and Veterans Day. It's going to be very chilly, very cold overnight as well.
But after hearing about the 5 inches of snow out in the
We're
Dakotas
lucky.
and stuff, we'll take it.
We're, again, timing this out pretty well.
Okay.
Right, thanks, Ed.
Hawkeyes prepare to face a legend.
Joe Paterno talks about the Hawks next.
It's easy to see why people are excited about Roundup Ready to Yield soybeans. Monumental yields, coming for 2009.
Improving your home is easier than you think at Menards. A Plas-Plug's diamond wheel wet saw is perfect for any tile project. It makes quick work of intricate cuts and can cut tile up to 1 inch thick, only $79. Make wood look beautiful with Minwax products from Menards. Interior polyurethane dries fast to form a durable, long-lasting protective finish on all wood. Available in satin, semi-gloss, or gloss, $22.88 a gallon.
Save big money at Menards.
Clinton's a perfect example of a great Iowa town.
And this is our home.
You know, whether you're growing a family or growing a business, Clinton is just a great place to do it. You know, the lottery changed our lives, and we both like to think that we can do things that change others.
To be able to give and to help somebody else, you don't expect anything in return. It's really a good feeling.
It's a win-win situation.
We just think it's very important to give something back.
If you're interested in plastic surgery, don't trust your future with anyone but a board-certified plastic surgeon. You'll find Heartland Plastic Surgery at Ask the Expert at WHOTV.com.
It's easy to see why people are excited about Roundup ready-to-yield soybeans. Massive yields coming for 2009.
Wednesday. New episodes of Law & Order return. Premiering Wednesday, 10, 9 Central on NBC.
Iowa Speedway in Newton. Driven to entertain. Driven to bring you the entire 2009 racing season for as little as $99. 10 heart-pounding events featuring the Iowa Corn Indy 250 and the Iowa debut of the NASCAR Nationwide Series. It's a season-long party with music, high-speed action, and so much more. To lock in your pass, call 1-866-RUSTY-GO or log on to iowaspeedway.com.
Wake up with a smile. The information you need, the team you trust. Patrick, Brooke, Jerry Ann, Brad. Today in Iowa. Weekday mornings 5 to 7 on Channel 13 News.
They do it to save a buck, but will we pay the price?
We've heard of illegal dumping. Well, this was legal. Now it threatens the groundwater here.
What we found already has lawmakers scrambling. A Channel 13 News investigation Wednesday at 10.
Talk about a legend.
Joe Paterno.
Yeah.
Yeah, this could be the last time we see him at Kinnick Stadium. It's hard to believe.
Then again, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah, you never know.
Could see him in 10 years. Joe Paterno has more wins than any D1 college football. Penn State is so good. Paterno spent most of today's news conference talking about a potential national championship game, not the Iowa game. Kirk Ferentz knows why his Hawks are underdogs.
You know, they are talented. They're talented at every position. You know, it's very, very impressive. It's as good a line as we've seen this week offensively. Defensively, I'd say the same.
The University of Iowa calls for a blackout Saturday with an asterisk. Iowa students are urged to wear green, as in support Sean Green. Green's teammates admit seeing the color green in the stands will be a little odd.
If they pull it off, I wear black and gold, so it'll be a little awkward, I guess. But I mean, if that's what you really want to do, I mean, I could almost guarantee Sean's against it.
It's like Notre Dame. Yeah, I was in Shields a couple weeks ago, and I saw these green shirts out there with "Go Green." And I was just thinking about what the whole student section looked like that.
Will a partial green out, partial blackout equal full upset? We'll find out Saturday. Penn State favored by 8. Somehow I didn't even notice this last night, but a man working the chain gang in an official's uniform jumps up and down for Dowling after the Maroons score on Johnston. It became the hot topic of conversation today on KXNO after Marty Terrell watched the video on WHOTV.com.
Oh my gosh.
No doubt the official is cheering Dowling, though he's not in position to influence the game. Still not a good idea when wearing that outfit. The Channel 13 softball team wants no part of West Des Moines' 50 and over All-Stars. They just returned from Phoenix, where Bagby's won the national championship. The boys from West Des Moines never lost a game. But you're still thinking about that official jumping up and down.
I am.
Yeah. He's actually working the chain gang, but
Still.
Not wise.
Doesn't look good.
Thanks, Keith. We'll be right back.
Some people think you can't get a lease on a new car right now, but at Toyota you can. In fact, you can lease the best-selling car in America, the Toyota Camry, for just $249 a month. For more, go to ToyotaFinancingNow.com. Toyota, a smart way to keep moving forward.
No such thing as too much performance, especially when it comes to high-yielding Mycogen brand grain corn hybrids.
Thick burgers are great, but sometimes they're just too much. Thick burgers are great.
Introducing the quarter-pound Little Thick Burger. It's a thick burger, but little. New at Hardee's. Badonkadonk. Badink-a-dink. Introducing the quarter-pound Little Thick Burger. It's a thick burger, but little. New at Hardee's.
This is my town.
My home.
Our place. The kind of place where you can put down roots.
There's great opportunities here and room to grow.
Best pie you'll ever have.
Our bank? Great Western Bank.
Good people. Good advice.
They believe in me. That means a lot.
Great Western Bank, making life great. Wednesday is the new night for crime.
I like the sound of this.
Kits on the case on a new Knight Rider. Allow me to drive. Then the Wednesday premiere of Life.
Want to show you my badge?
Still here! Solving television's most fascinating cases. And the original Wednesday crime drama is back.
Just get me the indictment.
The season premiere of Law & Order.
Justice by other means.
Knight Rider, Life, and Law & Order. Wednesday, the new night for crime on NBC.
As we told you at the top of the newscast, polls closed in 6 states, and NBC's projections are this. First, Kentucky goes to McCain, Vermont goes to Obama, but Indiana, Georgia, South Carolina, and Virginia are too close to call. So those are the early projections at this point. Many more to come.
Oh, it's going to be a fun night. We hope you stick with us.
We'll see you again right here on Channel 13 at 9:20 for an update. Join us.
Every month during the school year, Allied Insurance and Channel 13 salute a teacher based on the kind words of a student. We call it the Golden Apple Award, and it's a celebration.
So on behalf of Allied Insurance and Channel 13, we'd like to ask Mrs. Engel to please come forward.
Mrs. Wheeler to please come forward.
Ms. Davis to please come forward.
Honor your favorite teacher today by nominating them for the Golden Apple Award at WHOTV.com/Golden Apple, presented by Allied Insurance and Channel 13.
It might seem strange, but your antenna TV could become just a box if you don't get this box. In February 2009, some TVs will stop working unless they're upgraded to digital television with this DTV converter box. Without this upgrade, your antenna TV will not work. Make sure your TV is DTV. Call 888-DTV-2009 or visit dtvanswers.com. Don't let your TV become just a box.
Brooke Valma on Today in Iowa, tomorrow morning at 5 on Channel 13 News.
From NBC News, Decision 2008, Election Night.
7:30 p.m. in the East. Let's go directly to the latest grouping of states we have for you in the critical state of Ohio. Right now, our official pronouncement is too early to call this race, but with the caveat that Obama so far is leading. West Virginia, too early to call, with John McCain leading. And in North Carolina, where there's really two races we are concentrating on so closely tonight, the presidential and, of course, the re-election attempt by Elizabeth Dole up against State Senator Hagan, we are told. Hagan with a slight lead in that race. You're going to hear us use these two terms all night. Too early to call means what it says, simply not enough of the raw vote. Too close to call means the known raw vote is simply too close to extrapolate any more from that. We'll take a look at the electoral map again this March to 270, which is what the early portion of the evening, of course, is all about. We're looking at the very, very early electoral count, 8-3, with just the first two states awarded. Tom Brokaw here with us in the studio. And Tom, you, like the rest of us, taking a look at Virginia, which is still too early tonight.
You remember that famous 19th century editorial about, yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus? Right. It depends which Santa Claus shows up tonight, for McCain or for Obama. The polls have been closed now about a half an hour. It's still too close to call. A very, very senior Obama advisor told me over the weekend, harkening back to Tim, of course, in 2000 when he was saying Florida, Florida, Florida. In the Obama campaign, they're saying Virginia, Virginia, Virginia. If they can win that tonight, and the votes have been cast, if they have won it, then they think that that will start something very substantial for them. But we don't know yet because we have not been able to tell, and the polls have been closed for about a half an hour now. But it's a big state to keep track of. Chuck Todd has been talking about it all along. It's the northern part, as you know, is more moderate to liberal. The southern part is still the old Dominion, and it's part of the Confederacy in the eyes of a lot of people. But it does have a Democratic governor now, and Jim Webb did beat George Allen last time out.
That's right. And the northern part of that state, which John McCain's brother made a lot of news during the campaign, calling it the communist part of the state, the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's the northern part where the returns have been very, very slow in coming into us tonight. We want to talk about some of these voter attitudes we're learning from people exiting the polls. Ann Curry in our virtual reality exit poll studio. Ann, I know you have more data.
That's right, Brian. We're getting some numbers now that may indicate how moderates are breaking. The numbers are from Indiana, where 20% say they are liberal, 45% say they are moderates, and 35% consider themselves conservatives. Now, here's a close-up look at how those moderates voted. And 63% went for Barack Obama. 36% went for John McCain. Obama is also doing very well among some key groups in Indiana, including those who earn between $30,000 and $75,000 a year, white voters, and those who live in the suburbs. Now, during the campaign, as you well know, Brian, John McCain painted Barack Obama as too liberal. But take a look at this number. 45% of Indiana voters said that he is too liberal. 4% think that he is too conservative. And 50% said that Barack Obama's policies are about right. So no way, as you well know, Barack Obama can win without those moderate votes. And if Indiana's any indication, tonight Obama's doing very well with them and also with key groups that usually vote Republican, Brian.
All right, Ann Curry with the exit polling results. She'll continue to keep a safe distance from the flying graphics tonight. Let's take a look at the Senate board. We have another call, this one widely expected in the state of West Virginia. The member of the prominent Rockefeller family who wound up in West Virginia, Jay Rockefeller, the incumbent senator, will return. That's a Democrat hold. And now we look at what we'll call tonight the new Senate. That's +1 net for the Dems so far, 39-27. There's two gray Senate seats there on the edge of between blue and gold. Those are independents. That's going to be crucial tonight. Two independent members of the Senate, but they caucus with the Democrats. When it comes down to party line votes when they're needed, they are usually there. Andrea Mitchell following all things Senate and House tonight. We've got a bunch of dramas taking place in the Senate.
We do. Now, one of those two independents is Bernie Sanders. Very liberal, calls himself a socialist, the former mayor of Burlington, Vermont. And he is a reliable Democratic vote on liberal issues, on big issues, stimulus package, energy issues. Joe Lieberman, not so much. And this is the big question. If they pick up enough seats so that they reach 60, which is filibuster-proof, supposedly, even though that's a moving target depending on what the question is, then perhaps they might move the Democrats against Joe Lieberman. He's been caucusing with them. He was elected as an independent. He votes as a Democrat. He's a registered Democrat, although it's clear he'll vote for John McCain. He's so close to McCain, and the Democrats are so angry at Lieberman for having gone so strongly, not just for McCain, but in his convention speech at the Republican convention, attacking Barack Obama.
Joe Lieberman, a former freedom rider during the civil rights struggle, the time of Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman, who has now really picked fights and has enemies in both parties, really.
And, you know, there's a House seat that's also of great interest in Connecticut because Chris Shays was the last Republican standing in the Northeast in 2006. And Chris Shays has a tough fight with Jim Himes because this could possibly not be a Republican year in the state of Connecticut.
Just north of the city of New York, we'll be watching that race as our coverage goes on tonight. And just outside our building, again, a crowd we're estimating in the thousands. We've got big video screens set up. They're watching the returns along with us. It's early yet, 7:36 p.m. here on the East Coast of the United States. We'll take a break. Our coverage continues from New York and points elsewhere right after this.
The Cadillac Red Tag event. Right now, you'll find unprecedented values on our best-selling luxury models. From the award-winning Cadillac CTS to the legendary Escalade, now's the time to move up to Cadillac. During the first ever Cadillac Red Tag event, the price on the tag is the price you pay, providing incredible values like this. See your Cadillac dealer.
How do we make our new cereal?
Allow us to demonstrate.
You start with Honey Bunches of Oats.
The flakes fly!
And what's left?
Just bunches.
New in Honey Roasted and Caramel.
For years, low-dose aspirin has been a cornerstone of heart attack prevention. Today, there's Bayer with Heart Advantage. Ask your doctor about the only low-dose aspirin product that helps lower the risk of heart attack and lowers cholesterol. Be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin or modify an aspirin regimen.
Your heaviest days have finally met their match. Introducing Always Infinity, the world's first pad made with Infinicell, an uber-absorbent material that holds 10 times its weight, which is just fancy talk for your heavy days are going down. Always Infinity. Have a happy period.
Saturday, relive the fun of the election with Saturday Night Live's Presidential Bash. Saturday, 9, 8 Central on NBC.
All you have to do is want it.
Part of the crowd of thousands outside our headquarters here. It's reached that point in the evening while, again, we're short on data. The compiling is going on. The voting is going on in many places. We're going to talk to folks in both camps, the Obama and McCain campaigns, close advisors each, beginning with Valerie Jarrett. Valerie, we haven't spoken since the convention. She is in Chicago, a very senior advisor to Obama and a very close friend of the senator. Valerie, the New York Times spent a whole lot of ink this week talking about the transition going on in the senator's head from senator to, in case he is named that tonight, president-elect. Can you talk about any evident changes in the man or his thinking in the last 24 to 48 hours?
Well, you know what, Brian? Well, first of all, good evening, and it's a pleasure to be here from Chicago, our hometown, the hometown of Senator Obama. I think that he's been preparing for this journey his entire life, and he's still, though, focusing on winning this election. So there are still polls that are open across our country, and until the last vote is counted, we want to just focus on getting out the vote. But he is certainly ready to lead our country, and if we are successful this evening, beginning tomorrow, he will start his transition towards that leadership. Of
course, because he had a 50% chance of needing that preparation, I'm sure he's gone through some of it. After all, when you think about it, he was a state senator 4 years ago tonight. And now here he is. Can you give us a glimpse inside the very protective shell around Barack Obama? We know he played basketball today. We know friends of his flew in town just to get together with him for that game because it was such a release at the end of the campaign. How else can you fill in the blanks for us?
Well, I'd say we started the morning by traveling to Indianapolis. You know, Indiana is a state that the Democrats haven't won in decades, and Senator Obama is confident that we can win in Indiana, and so he wanted to send a strong signal to the people in Indiana that he has confidence in them and hopes that he's earned their trust and respect. So we started the day there, and then you're right, he did come home and he's playing basketball with a bunch of his buddies just to relax and unwind after a very long journey, a journey that I think all of our Americans can say we've never seen a race quite like this in the country, and it's just terrific. So we're hoping it's a successful evening. We're cautiously optimistic, but as I mentioned, there are still polls that are open around our country, and anyone who hasn't voted, who can still vote, we encourage you to get out and vote. Participate in this process.
In a bipartisan way, that's been our message to folks all night long and for several days. Valerie Jarrett, we'll be talking to you again. Thank you very much for your time, and good to see you again from Chicago tonight. And from Phoenix, Arizona, we are joined by one of two U.S. senators almost always at the side of John McCain. Whoops, I'm sorry. I was given the wrong information. Nancy, I'm so sorry. We were supposed to be talking to Senator Lindsey Graham, and Nancy, you're here with us instead, and we're happy to see you. It's been a long time. Tell us about the machinations inside the McCain campaign. We understand there's a very emotional piece of videotape. He came to the rear of the plane today and had one last chat with the traveling bunch of camera crews and reporters with him. What did he say, and what's his mindset going into tonight?
Well, John McCain, you know, Senator McCain is such a fighter. He's such a gonna take that hill kind of guy, and he's somebody that really appreciates the people that have been in the trenches with him. And so I'm sure what he did was share his support and just his gratitude for logging all those hours away from their families to cover this all-important election, this historic election that has excited the country. So I think we're very ramped up. We're very positive right now, but looking forward to a long night, I have to say. I had a huge cup of coffee about half an hour ago.
Nancy, you're also realist, however, and at the top of our coverage, I said the GOP is holding its breath. Tom Brokaw put it a little differently, saying seismologists are feeling the surface of the earth for temblors tonight. The polls have been against you for quite some time. Nationally, some of the battleground states look very dicey for you.
Well, and we knew that we were going into a very stiff headwind. I mean, this is an extraordinarily difficult year for Republicans, and I think anybody other than John McCain, if it had been anybody other than John McCain, we wouldn't be in the position where we're in, where I think we're going to hold those states. I think we're going to hold those states, and that we've got a path to victory here, and it's going to come down to the participation of the American people. And I have to say, I agreed with a lot of what Valerie had to say. I worked the phones yesterday for a couple of hours and called into Virginia and Pennsylvania, and folks were excited. They were absolutely, I'm voting, my husband's voting, my kids are coming home from college to vote, so this was just pretty exciting.
All right, Nancy Pfotenhauer, who's been one of the stalwart spokespersons for the McCain effort, going right on through the end of the campaign tonight into election night. Nancy, forgive me always for the mix-up at the top of the segment, and thank you for being with us. We'll take another break in our coverage here as we look at some of the pictures of the gathering crowd in Grant Park, Chicago, Illinois. Again, it's early yet, 7:44 here in the east, 6:44 in Chicago. The crowd is building. Our coverage is among the big screens they're looking at. We'll continue right after this.
You don't have to do all that.
There's enough here for 3 months, Dad.
3 months? How am I going to pay for it?
It was only $10.
Come on, for all of this?
I got it at Walmart.
Wow.
Get Walmart's unbeatable prices on hundreds of popular prescriptions. A 90-day supply is just $10. Up to a 30-day supply is still only $4.
No more skipping doses, okay?
Promise. Cross my heart.
Save money, live better. Walmart.
Teen girls and guys are from two different planets. That's why there's new One-A-Day Teen Advantage for her and for him. The only complete multivitamins designed for their specific health concerns, like her healthy skin and his healthy muscle function. New One-A-Day Teen Advantage.
Enter the deep end of moisture. Only Olay Ribbons Body Wash adds a ribbon of actual moisture to wrap your skin in 2 times the moisturizers. Olay Ribbons Body Wash from Olay.
There are better days to meet us where we stand. They are gathering in clouds and spreading out over.
When it's people who do the right thing, they call it being responsible. When it's an insurance company, they call it Liberty Mutual. Responsibility. What's your policy? Liberty Mutual Insurance.
A military hero turned government operative.
I'm on my way in.
When he needed a cover, they decided to create one.
You ready to go to sleep? Does it matter?
And with the flick of a switch, one man became 2.
A split personality.
I am 2 people. Christian Slater, new My Own Worst Enemy, Monday after Heroes on NBC.
We're back, and straight up here we have another call that will add to the electoral map. The state of South Carolina has been awarded here at 7:46 p.m. To John McCain, as expected, though our own Chuck Todd has seen some of the some changes to the political firmament there in South Carolina. You remember the fight over South Carolina back in 2000. He had a bitter disappointment there after a grueling and awful campaign for him. Went Bush's way, but now there are 2 bits of red there on the early electoral map, our path to 270. We want to show you something that happened. We referenced it in our last segment. Flying late today from Albuquerque to Phoenix on board his McCain-Palin campaign plane, a specially outfitted 737. John McCain came to the press compartment in the rear of the aircraft where the candidates, when mistakes get blown out of proportion, have not been talking to the press pool much during the campaign, and had some kind of closing remarks for the traveling press corps covering him. You may have to listen a bit closely because of the noise of the aircraft. Here's what John McCain had to say.
Well, my friends, this is our last flight on this airplane together, and so I just wanted to stop back. Yesterday, I know, was really a fun day. We're starting out at crack of dawn and ended up at 2 a.m. We went 3,700 miles yesterday. We've had a great ride. We're looking forward to the election results tonight, and I'm feeling good, feeling confident about the way things have turned out. We've had a great ride, we've had a great experience, and it's full of memories that we will always treasure. Last one up there in Colorado, where people were so warm, and the enthusiasm, as you have seen in the rallies, has been really quite remarkable and quite heartwarming. So we've spent a lot of time together. Some we've been together for almost 2 years. Others, those are the ones that rode around in the van with us and on the 3999 flight to Manchester. So anyway, we've had a great time. I wish you all every success, and look forward to being with you in the future. Thanks very much.
Again, the kind of closing comments. The plane will go back on the lease market, of course, because the campaign portion of this is over. But John McCain to the traveling press corps, joking about that $39.99 flight to Manchester during the dark solo days of his campaign that was near death on life support in New Hampshire. Of course, it came roaring back in this unlikely and whirlwind campaign. The polls are open in the state of Florida. That's one of the big states, of course, we'll be watching. We don't need to repeat its place in modern electoral history. Our own Carrie Sanders is there in West Palm for us tonight. Carrie, good evening. What's going on there?
Well, Brian, as you noted, the polls are open in a portion of the state which is in the Panhandle. At 7 o'clock, they closed on the eastern portion of the state, but everybody who was in line will still get a chance to vote. Some very long lines, as you can see in Miami. It will take several hours for everybody to get through the polling sites. Meantime, we'll take a live picture here. This is the canvassing board inside Palm Beach County, and what they're doing is they're going through individually looking at absentee ballots that have problems. And to explain here, this is how most of the state in Florida voted. Candidate A, candidate B, and then they just filled in the dot. However, Palm Beach County, which always does things differently, as we can remember, Brian, had this. Voters did this, voters did this, voters did this, all wrong. If they wanted to vote and have their vote counted, they had to connect what essentially is an arrow pointing to their candidate. So there's going to be some voters who've already told us they didn't understand when they went in what they were doing. Whether it's a very close vote here in Florida, specifically in Palm Beach County, that will then become an issue. Otherwise, votes who voted wrong don't count. Brian?
How many people are watching right now saying, does it have to be this hard to cast a vote this year? Especially, you'd think, given the history that, Carrie, you covered along with us all those election cycles ago. Carrie Sanders, thanks. Among the correspondents, we'll also be checking in with tonight, and we'll get to him a little later on. Our own Luke Russert, who tonight is posted at Indiana University. Luke, just give me a taste before we talk a bit later on. You're with young people tonight, and we fully expect this to be the year they come to the fore.
Yes, it very much could be the year. Sorry, Brian, I feel like Tom Brokaw on the Berlin Wall back in '89. The exit polls right now are showing that the young voters 18 to 29 are coming at 17%. That's the same as '04. However, what we have to know is that it's still early, and there's a lot that can be going on. Brian?
All right, Luke, as promised, we'll be checking back. Good analogy with the Berlin Wall there, Luke. We'll be checking back. Tom got a good laugh out of that. As we hand it off to our local stations here for another break, we're going to tell you that when we next see you from our studio here, top of the hour, 8 o'clock in New York, we'll have 15 state closings, plus the District of Columbia, but importantly, Florida and Pennsylvania polls closing. Stay with us. This is Decision 08.
Decision 2008 election night continues. Here is Pete Williams.
Back here once again in Washington as we come up on closing times for the polls in more than a dozen states. And here is where we stand at this relatively early hour of the evening. At this point, NBC News projects Barack Obama winning in Vermont and John McCain winning Kentucky and South Carolina. And it's considered too close to call in North Carolina and Indiana. Among the states where the polls close at the top of the hour are Florida and Missouri, both considered toss-ups by our NBC News political team, and Pennsylvania, where John McCain was hoping to make a strong showing. Within just a few minutes, by 8 p.m., voting in roughly half the states is scheduled to end, barring any complications that would lead election officials in those states to extend voting hours, and we haven't heard of any. Turnout has been exceptionally big today, and in some states that has meant problems, not just voting, but as well as long lines. NBC's Carrie Sanders has been watching the voting today in Florida and joins us from Palm Beach County Tabulation Center. Carrie, what's it been like there today?
Well, extremely long lines. In some cases, folks had to wait 4 or 5 hours. This on top of the fact that the state had early voting with a tremendous turnout of early voters. Some people then had to wait 9 hours. So comparatively, it went well. In many cases, people were to get in and get out rather quickly. But the lines began to swell towards the end of the day here. The polls closed at 7 o'clock in the eastern portion of the state. There is also in the Panhandle of the time zone. The polls remain open there. Everybody who is in line by the time the polls close will get a chance to vote. The biggest problem appears right now to be in Central Florida at the University of Central Florida, where there may be upwards of 2,000 students who registered to vote after a big push by the Obama campaign. then did not early vote, then slept in this morning, went to classes, and all sort of converged at the polling place late this afternoon. Things are moving there extremely slowly, and of course, they cannot take out those little computer data cards from the actual machines until everybody's had a chance to vote. Then once those votes are taken, those tabulating machines, the actual little cards come out, and they're brought to locations like this. Deputies in each county bring them in, and then they start running them through the computers and doing the tabulations. At the same time, over my shoulder, the canvassing board in Palm Beach County, a group of politicians who became rather famous in 2000 as they were trying to figure out the Chads, are right now looking at absentee ballots to determine whether the signatures are correct and match, because in some cases they don't. And if there is no signature, by state law, that absentee ballot is thrown out, Pete.
But no magnifying glasses this year, probably.
No Chads, thankfully, and it looks like, by and large, the system is going to work.
All right, thank you. Kerry Sanders in Palm Beach. Senator Obama was leading in the polls as the campaign drew to a close, and on the eve of the election, our NBC News estimates showed him ahead in enough states to have a majority of the electoral votes needed to win. But there is a wild card here that has come to be known as the Bradley effect. And joining me once more again is James Thurber, director of the Center of Congressional and Presidential Studies at American University. Professor, tell us, why is it called the Bradley effect? What is it? And do you think it's going to be a big factor?
Well, Mayor of Los Angeles, Bill Bradley, in 1982, was running for governor of California. He was significantly ahead in the polls, and the media called the race, actually, in his favor. And he was African American. And he lost narrowly after a count of the absentee ballots. Now, what happened in that state was people felt that that people were lying to the pollsters. They said what was socially acceptable, that they would vote for a black, but they went in and they didn't. Now, in the analysis afterwards, white independents and undecideds didn't vote for him at high rates. Now, it also occurred even more significantly, this Bradley effect, in Virginia with Governor Wilder in 1989, and also with the Mayor Dinkins of New York. Wilder was up 15% 2 weeks out, and he won that election as governor of Virginia by 6,700 votes out of 1.7 million. And Dinkins was up 15%, and he, in the end, only won by 2%.
So it sounds like you're a believer in the Bradley effect, then.
No, I'm not.
Okay, why not?
Because there have been studies since then, and from 89 to 95, there seemed to be a Bradley effect, a slight Bradley effect, studying gubernatorial races, Senate races where an African American was running and didn't do as well as the polls. But from 1995 to present, there seems to be no Bradley effect, or maybe even a reverse Bradley effect, meaning that people, that African Americans got more than what was indicated in the polls.
Now, I've heard you say something that you may not believe in the Bradley effect, but you believe in the Ventura effect, named, I assume, for Jesse Ventura. What is that?
Well, the Ventura effect was unique to Minnesota. You have day of registration. He was very popular with young people. He went around to the campuses in Minnesota. Day of registration meant that they had a surge of 317,000 new registrants, young people that came out and voted for him in Minnesota.
So it just means that perhaps the people who supported him were underpolled. Do you think that might be going on in this election?
Well, I think that we've had so many polls, Pete. Hundreds of polls. I think that we're fairly accurate this time in terms of whether there's a Bradley effect or not.
All right. Professor Thurber, thank you. We'll be hearing from you throughout the evening. Tonight, we'll also decide what kind of Congress the next president will be working with. Democrats seem likely to pick up some seats in the U.S. Senate tonight, now split 49-49 with 2 independents who generally vote with them, making it effectively 51-49. The Democrats would like to get to 60 because if they can hold all of them, they'd be able to override a president's veto. And in the House, the Democrats now outnumber Republicans 236-199. It seems likely the Democrats will pick up some seats tonight there, too, perhaps a few dozen. Now, in just a few minutes, more polls will close. The polls will close in Arkansas, and then the biggest single chunk of the night, 15 in all, close at the top of the hour at 9 o'clock. And so far, we know that the Democrats have picked up 1 member of the Senate, Mark Warner, who will take over for John Warner, no relation. So the Democrats gain 1 there. And in governor's races tonight, it appears that all the incumbents are holding. Jack Markell in Delaware, John Lynch in New Hampshire, Joe Manchin in West Virginia. Those are all Democrats. And then Republicans, Mitch Daniels in Indiana And a Democrat will take over for a retiring governor in Missouri, Jeremiah J. Nixon. The former the current Attorney General of Missouri takes over for Matt Blunt there. So far, incumbents are generally doing well tonight. NBC News coverage of Decision 2008 election night now continues from New York with Brian Williams.
From NBC News, Decision 2008 election night.
A very important hour has arrived in this election with the 8 o'clock hour here in the East, and a big prize for the Democrats in their pursuit of the presidency. Barack Obama is being awarded Pennsylvania by this network. We're projecting when all the votes are counted, he will have won that major prize for the Democrats. 15 states, the polls just closed, including this one. Big prize in Florida, where it is too close to call, as it is in Missouri. Closely sought after, 11 electoral votes because of its bellwether status in the center of the country. New Hampshire has gone to Barack Obama, and this will start now a bit of a run through the East and New England. You just saw Connecticut, Delaware, Joe Biden's home state, District of Columbia. Wait till you see the margin there for Barack Obama when this night's over. His home state of Illinois has fallen to his category. As we say, now begins the run. Way up the tip of New England, the great state of Maine. Down again the eastern seaboard, the state of Maryland in the Obama category. To the Bay State of Massachusetts, the Commonwealth has gone to Barack Obama tonight, as has the most densely populated state in the Union, the great state of New Jersey. Oklahoma, red state, stays red tonight for John McCain, as does Tennessee for John McCain. Let's put them onto the map and take a step back and look at the electoral map in our pursuit of 270 tonight. That gets us to the winner of this very long 22-month and then some campaign. You see the blue and red falling so far along the predicted lines. You see the crowd outside waiting for these returns, matching it against the national maps they've been handed. It all brings us inside the electoral map studio and our own political director, Chuck Todd. Chuck, we have just called a big prize at this hour, Pennsylvania. How does this now toughen the path to the presidency for John McCain?
Well, both Pennsylvania and New Hampshire, Brian, these were the final two blue states that John McCain campaigned in over the weekend. And the significance of the Pennsylvania call is that we were able to do it at the top of the hour. And we're not going to sit here and say, well, we know what the margin's going to be. But obviously, we know the margin is big enough that we're comfortable calling it. That means these polls were correct. Don't forget, the McCain campaign was arguing there was going to be this big undecided number. Possibly there was, over-polling in Obama, that somehow that there might have been some sort of a Wilder effect based on what happened to Governor Wilder in Virginia. So it is something that is significant in how quickly we were able to call Pennsylvania. But what it does, look, so far, every blue state from 04 stayed blue, and every red state from 04 stayed red in what we've called. But what it sets up here is what I call this political triangle of what McCain cannot afford to lose at all now that Pennsylvania is gone. With Virginia sitting out there as a state that the McCain campaign is nervous about losing, Ohio, North Carolina, and Florida, we haven't called any of them that. That's good news for McCain in general. He can't afford to lose any of them, Brian, because now this path to 270 for McCain is the same path that Bush carried, and so he can't afford to be losing any Bush states.
You see our folks placing the newer called states out on the map, including the ruby red state of Oklahoma going to the John McCain column. And Chuck, you are so right. Those states where we've yet to have a call, but the polls have been closed: Ohio, North Carolina, Virginia, Indiana. Tom, in that list is the race for president.
Well, the other thing we don't want to forget is the western half of the country. John McCain can hold his own in some of those states that Chuck Todd was just talking about, but then he has to do well in Nevada and New Mexico and Colorado. Those were states that George Bush won 4 years ago, and if he can't hold those when the map begins to move across the West, then he's got difficulties again.
And take a look at some of that early vote in Nevada. Clark County has been apparently trending so much toward the Democrats with the polls open early there.
The state leads the nation in foreclosures. It's another one of those economic meltdown states. If you look at all the battleground states, Ohio and Pennsylvania, even although Pennsylvania's unemployment rate is slightly below the average, all the manufacturing states that are in play here tonight that we've been talking about, they've been hit very hard by this economy, and all the polling that we're doing across the nation indicates by a factor of 6 and 7 to 1, that's what's on the minds of the voters. Terrorism and the war in Iraq, 9–10%. The economy, 62%. People are really worried about their economic future, and whoever gets elected president at the end of this night will not have any easy answers for them tomorrow.
Tom, perhaps it's the building excitement, perhaps that the list of states is growing, perhaps because we're learning more about this dynamic and just what kind of a story we're covering here tonight. We've got something off to the side that our viewers will recognize very easily. It's one of the now famous whiteboards that was used to such great effect by our friend Tim. This particular model was signed for our boss, the CEO of NBC Universal, Jeff Zucker. And it's a personal note from Tim to Jeff, but you see that second line of text there, Florida, Florida, Florida. That's kind of with us in this studio tonight, as Tim is. And we realize that a lot of our family of viewers are missing his presence and his point of view and his excitement and his enthusiasm just as much as we are. So we have, we've prepared this just to keep Tim's, there it is, Florida, 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 keep Tim's memory alive, and he's
heard from a lot of emails. I heard a lot of emails today from viewers who are saying, we're thinking about Tim, and I remember that you promised to toast him at the end of the evening, so stick around, everyone. We have something in mind here.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. That's the only part the folks at home won't see when this night is over. Ann Curry is in our exit poll studio, and Ann, we keep talking about these signals from the electorate, a boisterous electorate, a motivated electorate. Show us more evidence of that.
In fact, Tim would want us to get us right to the numbers. In fact, Brian, you've just now called the battleground state of Pennsylvania for Barack Obama. Well, we have some exit poll numbers that indicate just how Obama did it. 89% of Pennsylvania voters told us the economy is in bad shape and that they voted overwhelmingly for Barack Obama. A lot has been made also, Brian, about who would get the white working class voters who voted in Pennsylvania for Hillary Rodham Clinton in the primaries. Well, it turns out tonight that they went for Barack Obama. We'll have more on the Pennsylvania race as the night goes on. Also, Brian, we've got some interesting numbers out of North Carolina. So far, Barack Obama is winning more white votes in North Carolina than John Kerry did in 2004. And take a look at this. While 75% of white voters said race was not a factor in their vote today, 24% said it was a factor, and of that 24%, 69% of them went for McCain. But also take a look at this. 30% of the whites in North Carolina who said race was a factor still voted for Barack Obama, Brian. A lot of news being made here tonight.
All right, Ann Curry, thanks. Loving those graphics and that flying presidential seal. We'll go back to you as we continue to get more data in. We have some Senate calls among the states that have closed with the 8 o'clock hour and earlier, including a big one in New England. John Sununu has been defeated, and Jeanne Shaheen, a familiar voice and face to the voters of New Hampshire. If she was criticized, it was because she ran, if anything, a boring, steady, cautious campaign. She will be the new senator for that seat in New Hampshire. No surprise here, though he is hoping at the end of the night to vacate his Senate seat. Joe Biden is from Delaware. Dick Durbin from the state of Illinois, which they are hoping will become the new center of political power in the nation's midsection tonight. Susan Collins, popular Republican senator, will be going back to the U.S. Senate representing Maine. John Kerry, not a vigorous contest there in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Frank Lautenberg, the GOP really wanted to mount more of a challenge than they were able to muster in the end. Lamar Alexander's returning from Tennessee, former education secretary in the Clinton administration, as we pan to the right and look at what we're calling the new Senate. Democrats a net gain, that center number, Democrats +2 at this hour, 44-29. You see the gray independent, two of them important because they normally caucus with the Democrats. Andrea Mitchell following it all. What's your lead story this half hour?
Well, Jean Shaheen. She's the former governor, and this is a rematch. She lost to John Sununu 6 years ago.
Not happy about it.
And this is her return. John Sununu, very popular, moderate Republican, son of the former chief of staff, well-liked in Washington, but just couldn't go up against the headwinds in New Hampshire, which were so tough for a Republican this year. And also Mark Warner, also the other new member of the Senate, the former governor, very, very popular in Virginia. They thought about running for president, in fact.
And so much of this, Andrea, broke late. In the New Hampshire race, he had a sizable war chest, but a lot of these folks, because of the economic meltdown, didn't know to take it out and spend it when they needed to.
Yeah, and what happened after September 15th with the economy, which was certainly felt at the presidential level, that's when we saw the race widening with the polls going more towards Obama. That certainly was felt in New Hampshire for John Sununu.
All right, Andrea Mitchell covering Senate and House for us tonight. Again, at 10 minutes after 8 here, we're learning a lot more about the electoral story. We will leave you this break with a look at the electoral map. The search tonight is to 270. It stands at 103-34, with Obama in the lead of the states. Early to call. We'll take a break. Our coverage will continue with more right after this.
Every day, millions of people choose to do the right thing. There's an insurance company that does that too. Responsibility. What's your policy? Liberty Mutual Insurance.
It's Seen It, Seinfeld. It's time to prove that you know something when it comes to the show about nothing. With clips, puzzlers, and trivia that bring all your favorite Seinfeld moments into your home.
Lobster bisque. No. And no points for you.
It's Seen It, Seinfeld. Have you seen it?
A great moment, but Frank wasn't in the picture. He was in the men's room going again. Another moment, but Bob really needed to go. These male urinary symptoms could be due to BPH, also called an enlarged prostate. But for many guys, prescription Flomax reduces their urinary symptoms due to BPH in 1 week. Only your doctor can tell if you have BPH, not a more serious condition like prostate cancer. Avoid driving or hazardous tasks for 12 hours after your first dose or increase in dose, as a sudden drop in blood pressure may occur, rarely resulting in fainting. If considering cataract surgery, tell your eye surgeon you've taken Flomax. Common side effects are runny nose, dizziness, and decrease in semen. Get the picture? Ask your doctor if Flomax is right for you. For many men, Flomax can make a difference in 1 week.
NYPD. They're here to protect.
We just need your help to solve a crime.
To serve.
This violence has shocked our city.
The one show you can count on for justice.
We gotta set this right.
New Law and Order, tomorrow 10/9 Central, following the Wednesday premiere of Life on NBC.
What can I do?
Would you say, please welcome Liz Lemon?
No.
Oprah comes to 30 Rock Thursday after The Office on NBC.
Quarter after the hour of 8 o'clock, you see the crowd gathering outside this building. We have a whole lot of states where the voting is over, and we would love to get some numbers because they're battlegrounds and we're interested. Among them, Florida, Missouri, Ohio, North Carolina, Virginia, Indiana. While we wait, some members of our family who are watching along with us, men from the business who know a lot and can share that with us. Former Democratic Congressman Harold Ford Jr., the state of Tennessee, and Mike Murphy, formerly of the McCain campaign. And Congressman, I'll start with you. What do you think the story is going to be for your beloved Democratic Party tonight?
Big gains in the House. Surprisingly big gains in the Senate. I think there may be 1 or 2 of these seats in the South that will be picked off, which I think will serve not only the party well, but will make a big statement about the country. And I think Tom had it right at the outset of the show. The economy, the economy, the economy. The driving force, the dominant issue on people's minds across the industrial part of the country, across the South, and obviously across the Northeast. It's still early. Their voters left to vote. You certainly wanted to discourage that. But if you're a Democrat tonight, and I am one, you have to be encouraged, and Senator Obama has led that effort on behalf of the party.
And Mike, about your beloved Republican Party, you've seen the exits tonight. We've got some races where, because of the economic meltdown, perfectly good incumbents, quite frankly, could not run fast enough away from this president, couldn't spend their way out of what was apparently coming, and they are apparently going to get hit by a locomotive tonight.
Yeah, there's a big, nasty, generic Democrat vote out there that's wiping out a lot of stuff with an R after its name, regardless of the merits. It's a classic kind of generic, you know, Democratic year. Economy's a lot of that. We'll see how the presidential goes. It's way too early to tell, but some of the early counties, Republican counties, are frankly underperforming for McCain, or Obama's overperforming in Indiana and some places like that. So far, the early numbers are pretty tough for my side.
And Mike, you study this so closely. Is there any kind of bellwether moment for you where you will know or suspect that this is more of a pendulum movement we are seeing, those elections that come along once in a while?
Well, this could be very big. Whether it'll stick or not, or it's temporary, I don't know. The moments for me, I've done a lot of work in northern Indiana way back in my career. I'm looking at places like Steuben County that came in very fast, and where Senator McCain is running way under the normal number. I'm looking at Florida, Polk County, Pinellas, Pasco, places like that on the west side. I'm going to know a lot more in an hour, but early stuff is not super encouraging.
And Harold, real quick, same question to you.
John, we're encouraged. I mean, John McCain has got to run a straight. Chuck Todd's numbers at the outset of the show, where he demonstrated how McCain would have to run up and down that northeast seaboard. Barack has McCain right where he wants him here as we move into the latter part of the evening. And as so many of these races are too close to call, including Florida, which I think, to Mike's point, is probably the state to watch. If Barack is able to hold in Florida or North Carolina, it's going to be a very, very difficult and maybe too steep of a hill for Senator McCain to climb.
Ford and Murphy, two of our analysts, almost working together in a bipartisan manner tonight. Gentlemen, we appreciate it as always. Thank you very much. We're going to take another break and come back with more coverage. We continue to watch these battleground states inside the 8 o'clock hour here as we award more states on the rink and on the electoral map to the two candidates in this race tonight.
One of the biggest challenges for geoscientists is trying to find the oil and gas that's hidden below the surface of the Earth. Lately, our researchers have developed a new technology called R3M. You can't see it and you can't feel it, but the Earth has electromagnetic waves. And if you build the right kinds of listening devices, you can make sense of those waves. So using those tools, we can supply more of the energy that we need with less of an impact on the environment.
What do you do for stains detergent can leave behind? Well, Maytag and Whirlpool recommend OxyClean because it gets out the spills, the spots and splatters, whether they're ground in, smeared on, or dried up, it doesn't matter. That's the power of OxyClean.
Beating department store prices? That's easy.
James Edwards, Burlington Coat Factory menswear director.
I negotiate, I haggle, I even twist a few arms, all to get you the best deals on the best brands.
Department store fashions at up to 70% off. Burlington Coat Factory.
She's not herself.
Something's wrong.
All that vitamin C.
She loves her C.
But she needs medicine. So we decided to surprise her.
Vicks DayQuil plus vitamin C.
She's a C freak.
You guys.
New Vicks DayQuil plus vitamin C. All the relief of DayQuil plus 150% of the recommended value of vitamin C. Also try NyQuil plus vitamin C. Vicks, you're taken care of.
As our nation undergoes a historic transformation, next Tuesday, with over 650 pounds lost, Biggest Loser Families continues transforming lives.
I just want to take everything I've learned and be a better father and husband.
All new Biggest Loser Families returns next Tuesday, 8/7 Central on NBC. Thursday, it's an all-new ER. And in 2 weeks, the return of Anthony Edwards. New ER, Thursday at 10/9 Central on NBC.
Some of the people out on the plaza tonight among the thousands watching the returns along with us just after 8:18 p.m. We're waiting on some big states where the polls have closed. Florida, Missouri, Ohio, North Carolina, Virginia, Indiana, the battlegrounds that will draw the map to the presidency and help us figure out just what kind of story we are covering here tonight. The big one called within the last few minutes was the state of Pennsylvania, the Keystone State in the Obama column. NBC's Mike Taibbi in the hard-fought city of Philadelphia, where those suburbs around the city have really created such a powerful penumbra around that city for politicians. Mike, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. How are you? I'm in a place called Finnegan's Wake, which will be anything but a wake in a very short time, given the announcement that we have just made about Obama having won Pennsylvania. In this city, Governor Ed Rendell, who will be here in a short time, said just a short time ago that he expected that Obama would come out with a margin of more than 600,000 votes. Remember, John Kerry, when he won Pennsylvania in 2004, won by a margin of about 412,000 votes in this city. In addition, an Obama campaign spokesman told me that they overperformed in other places, the center of the state, Montgomery County, and in the west and the east as well, all those Reagan Democrats, adding up to a big number and a winning number for Barack Obama. Brian?
All right, Mike, I don't know whether it's good or bad news that I know exactly where Finnegan's Wake is, having lived in Philadelphia.
Yes, you do.
All right, Mike Taibbi, thanks. Down to Birmingham, Alabama we go. Tamron Hall is there, and they, too, are watching this story, as they are throughout the American South, so closely tonight. Tamron, good evening to you.
If I could put it on a scale, they are on a level 10 right now. Each and every time a projected state has crossed the screen, this crowd has screamed. And it's so interesting here in Birmingham, Alabama, because I've been here for about 2 days, and it's literally every person you stop on the street, they either were a part of the civil rights movement in the 60s here, or they know firsthand as the story was passed on from a grandparent or a parent. And here with me, right here, come on over, Reverend R.L. Patterson. He stood side by side here in Alabama with Dr. Martin Luther King, and we were talking about what this means for you, for this community. Did you ever think we'd get to this point?
Oh, yes. I'm excited. Great. The Lord has blessed us. We waited a long time for this. And I was there in Selma. I marched across the Edmunds Meadows Bridge there in that march that day.
And you had the dogs barking and chomping at you and the other civil rights activists, the water hose. And you told me without those events, we couldn't be here as a nation.
If it had not been for the dogs, the fire hose and everything that was put on us, brother cards and all, this day would not have come. And I'm satisfied. I'm just satisfied because it has been a blessing to me in my life. And this day is victory. Dr. Martin Luther King had a dream, but the dream has come alive.
All right, Reverend, thank you so much. I appreciate you talking to me. And again, Brian, a lot of excitement. People are very cautious. They're not too enthusiastic, but they're being patient. So we're going to keep an eye on it here.
Tamron, that's right. On a night when not all the vote has been counted and when folks indeed are still voting, it's one of the storylines we're following. More states coming up when our coverage continues at the bottom of the hour.
Decision 2008 election night continues. Here is Pete Williams.
Good evening. The polls are about to close in Arkansas, and that will bring to 25, half the states where no new voters are allowed to get in line. That's 26 if you count the District of Columbia. We know the voting has been very heavy today, and that has been especially true in Virginia, one of the key states we'll be watching tonight, one where the polls showed Barack Obama might be able to turn a nominally red state blue. State officials say they've seen a record number of voters turning out to vote, and because of that, they say, don't expect any quick results. It's still early, and here is where it stands at this hour, with NBC News projecting Barack Obama winning several states with 103 electoral votes on his way to the 270 needed to win, and John McCain with 34. Now, we've heard reports throughout the day of problems with voting. NBC's Rahema Ellis has been monitoring all of this all day long and joins us now from NBC News headquarters in New York. Rahema, how has the nation's voting system been performing?
So far, Pete, the good news is there have been relatively few problems reported on any major scale today. We have been hearing reports of long lines and long waits in some places. In particularly Chesapeake, Virginia being an important state, voters there had to wait up to 6 hours in order to cast their ballot. I want to talk to you also about in Ohio, Montgomery County. It seems that that also includes Dayton. We're hearing that some voters there, up to 30% or 40% of the voters, decided that they would choose paper ballots, which would be basically an optical scan machine way of deciding their vote. They would be scanned that way instead of using the touchscreen machines. The problem with all of this, officials are saying, they have chosen a very slow speed system for counting those ballots. We should point out, just looking at our map here, almost 60% of the country uses the optical scan method.
Is that what the green?
That's
what the green is?
That's what all of this green indicates, Pete. Now, we want to tell you one other thing that's going on, and that is in the Philadelphia area, there will probably be hundreds, if not thousands, of provisional ballots that may not be counted until Friday. The NAACP had tried to get the courts to force folks in Philadelphia to count those ballots tonight, but that lawsuit was denied.
All right, Rahema Ellis in New York, tracking it all in front of her largely green map. Thank you very much. Joining me now is an old Washington hand, Ken Duberstein, a former senior aide, a former White House chief of staff in the Reagan administration. And I want to talk to you about what we've seen so far on the map we just showed of which states Obama is winning, which states McCain is winning. What does this tell you so far, Ken, especially Pennsylvania?
It tells me that if you declare Pennsylvania as early as NBC declared it, that means that there is starting to be not quite a tsunami, but a tidal wave coming that looks like Barack Obama is cruising toward a victory. No, it's early. No, you can't project it. It is still doable for McCain. But Pennsylvania, that is so hotly contested, McCain and Sarah Palin making so many stops all over Pennsylvania to be declared the loser so early in the evening tells you that the pollsters probably won this year, that in fact they got it right. And if they did it in Pennsylvania, they're likely to be pretty much on target throughout the rest of the country.
Do you think it's difficult, if you're John McCain tonight, to see the loss in New Hampshire, the state that had sort of been the key to his comeback? Or was he expecting that?
I think it was quite a sentimental place for him. In fact, I campaigned with him in 2000 in New Hampshire when he announced his candidacy. And I think it's a tough loss because it's a maverick state. It brought him back again in 2008 in the primary when everybody had written him off. And to see him losing so decisively in New Hampshire has got to hurt a little bit.
Speaking of New Hampshire, in the Senate race there, NBC News projects that the former governor, Jeanne Shaheen, will defeat John Sununu, the incumbent senator. That's another pickup for the Democrats, bringing to 2 so far the number of seats they've picked up if you count Virginia, the old John Warner seat. That was a very close one. What does that tell you? Is that a big surprise?
Well, I think all the polls were projecting that Jeanne Shaheen, who I also know.
Well, I'm assuming you know everyone we're going to talk about
No, not
tonight.
necessarily. But Jeanne pulled it out. You know, John Sununu beat her 6 years ago for the same seat.
This was a rematch, right.
And remember, John's father, John Sununu Sr., was also the former governor. But what it tells you is that the Republicans are probably in for a pretty rocky night in the Senate if, in fact, they've lost Virginia and now New Hampshire, where there was some hope that John Sununu could hold on.
All right, Ken Duberstein, thank you. We'll be hearing from Ken a little later tonight as well. And we'll also be following efforts in several states to change the law or amend state constitutions. Now, the most bitterly contested, of course, is in California, where they're still voting on same-sex marriage. In May, the state Supreme Court struck down laws against it, and since then, more than 11,000 gay couples have gotten married there. And the voters are asked whether to amend the Constitution to ban it. In Colorado, voters will decide whether to approve a measure declaring that human life begins at the moment of fertilization. If this passes, it would make Colorado the first state to officially declare when life begins, and it could be used, supporters say, perhaps to bring a case to the U.S. Supreme Court to reconsider Roe v. Wade. That is also on the minds of supporters of an effort in South Dakota to impose what they hope will be the strictest limits on abortion in the nation, a virtual ban with very narrow exceptions for rape, incest, and danger to the life and health of the mother. And the supporters also hope that will get to the Constitution. Now, one that we have been following tonight is an initiative in Massachusetts where officials there had hoped to, or rather voters had hoped to reduce first and then do away by 2010 the state's personal income tax. NBC News now projects that that will be defeated. That is the first of the ballot propositions that we've heard about so far. We talked about the Senate, the pickup of 2 senators, and we've also seen a pickup by the Democrats of 1 seat of the 11 seats. There are 11 seats up of state governors. The Attorney General in Missouri, Jeremiah J. Nixon, has beat Kenny Hulshoff to take over the seat from a retiring Republican, so that's a pickup for the Democrats as well. And we'll be following the Senate and governor races tonight and these ballot propositions along with the House. We haven't seen much action in terms of calling the House races, but we'll keep you posted on that as we come throughout the night with the help of Jim Thurber from American University and Ken Duberstein. NBC News coverage of Decision 2008, the general election night, continues now from New York with Brian Williams. I'm Pete Williams in Washington. We'll see you back here shortly.
From NBC News, Decision 2008, Election Night.
8:30 in the East, we have more calls, more states to tell you about. We'll go to the center of the country first. In the state of Arkansas, it is with 0% in. We are apparently too early to call, is our official determination at this hour. Let's take a look at the electoral map. The search for 270, 103.34. The headlines thus far, we are about, in terms of data, at the halfway point tonight. The economy, turnout, and the mood of this electorate tonight. You see the red and blue, and we've got some states that are still in the too close to call designation. Battlegrounds all, we're watching them carefully. Indiana, Florida, North Carolina, and Missouri. We've received quite a few emails asking us for the difference between our 2 designations. Let's throw Virginia on that pile as well. Too close to call, too early to call. They are, in a way, self-explanatory. Too early to call, just not enough raw data in. We can't base a call on that little, and too close. The data is, there's simply not gap enough to declare one candidate in the lead. Chuck Todd, our political director, looking at the electoral map. Chuck, let's talk about the various paths now as the evening narrows, as the choices narrow.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been looking particularly close at Indiana and Florida, watching these returns come in, and I'm just struck by, first of all, how well Obama's performing in some areas he needs to. Here in South Bend, St. Joe County, this is a county Bush won. We almost have all the vote in. Obama's not just winning the county, he's winning it big. 58-41, he's going to get some 20,000 extra votes out of here. So the way into this is how Indiana's become too close to call. He's taking some Bush counties and turning them potentially into Obama counties. And by the way, about Indiana, and folks that remember it from the primaries, we don't have any results yet out of Lake County. That's Gary, Indiana. That's going to be a big Obama county when it comes. The other one I'm watching is Florida, because you're seeing these numbers come in. A big county difference here is Pinellas. This is the Tampa Bay area. This is where elections are won. We've got a lot of data in. This is another county. Bush carried it by 1 point in 04. Obama, with 90% in, carrying it by 8 points. This is a big swing here. You're starting to see some clues about which direction some of these states are going and how Obama is able to potentially put together one of these red states. And I'll tell you, Brian, either one of these falls, and suddenly the path gets not just narrow anymore, it may disappear for John McCain.
Hey, Chuck, we just got a big Senate race. North Carolina, we've been watching this one very closely. Elizabeth Dole has apparently, we're projecting, been defeated. It's going to go to Kay Hagan, the state senator. And, Chuck, there's an astounding stat, 2 of them actually, that stem from this race. First time in 52, neither Bush nor Dole elected in Washington. And second, the number of days Senator Dole spent back home in North Carolina just 2 years ago. It was used against her in this campaign, and suddenly it's all gone for Elizabeth Dole.
It really is. And Brian, 2 years ago, she was head of the Republican Senate Committee. She was in charge of the Republican Senate campaigns that lost control of the Senate in 06. So this is sort of a double stomach punch to her. 2 elections in a row in 06. Iraq took her down and took all of her candidates down, those 6 Senate seats that gave Democrats this very narrow control. And then now she's a victim herself, 1 term. You know, the other fascinating thing about North Carolina, Democrats haven't won a Senate seat in a presidential year. Normally, a presidential year, this is great for Republicans. This is when they win their Senate seats in North Carolina. They haven't done this since the 60s. So this is showing you this sea change. And I'm struck by another thing that I've been hearing in the exit polls, and that is how Obama and Democrats in general are performing with white voters, particularly white college-educated voters. This is a group of voters that Bush dominated in 2004. Obama's winning them. This is how he's moving some of these states, and this is also how an Elizabeth Dole loses in a presidential year in the state of North Carolina.
Hey, Chuck,
absolutely stunning.
This will be fun. We have some Senate race calls, and we have no heads up on these. They're coming right out of the computer without prep, so we'll all learn these at the same time. Jeff Sessions turns away the state senator who the Democrats thought could give him a run, but in the end, power and organization will win. Popular conservative in the state of Oklahoma, Inhofe, will return to the U.S. Senate. Mark Pryor, unopposed in the state of Arkansas, had the family name, had the money, and as it turns out, had no opponent whatsoever. There's the Senate. Dems net +3, 46-31. Remember the 2 gray seats representing the 2 independents, and the gold seats in the center of the screen are the seats in play tonight. There had been this mythic figure of 60 seats for the Democrats, said to be filibuster-proof, but as Andrea Mitchell's been pointing out all night, it can be a moving target. Georgia, we now have another call. Keep them coming in my ear, Bob. What was that you're going to add? Georgia for John McCain has been awarded on the electoral map. Red stays red. Again, the Democrats had wanted to mount a gain, obviously, in some of these seats. Alabama in the South, red stays red for John McCain. We pan back over to the left, the electoral map in the South. Tom Brokaw, what do you make of it at 8:36 p.m.?
Well, the Democrats had hoped that they may be able to pick up Georgia. We still have that Senate race that we're going to watch down there. There was a very heavy voter registration and a very heavy black voter turnout in Georgia, as you know. But what has been striking to me as I look at the exit polls as well is what a drag on the McCain ticket George W. Bush has been. Right there with the economy, people are saying they disapprove of almost everything that he has done in the last 4 years. There's a sense of betrayal, I suppose, that he's not delivered on his promise on the war, on fiscal responsibility in the Republican Party, the meltdown in the economy, and then going back, something you're very familiar with, the whole issue of competence. Republicans came in and said, we can manage things better, and then you had Katrina hanging out there. John McCain tried to separate himself, especially in the last couple of weeks of this campaign, by saying, I'm not George Bush. If you wanted to run against George Bush, you should have run in 2004. But he has been a big drag on this Republican ticket. And at this stage, he's going to be leaving office with a very low profile. And as you said earlier, the highest disapproval rating in recorded memory. That's right. Of all the polling that has been done. So the party always depends on someone at the top, and in this case, he's going to have a lot of responsibility for what happens here tonight.
Lowest approval rating since the beginning of the polling industry. Chuck Todd, get out your pen and show us again the triangle strategy in the South. You've been drilling on this machine, and your penmanship really has come along such a great distance in the last few days we've been doing this.
Well, it is. It's sort of this triangle here. If Virginia doesn't go the way the McCain campaign is hoping, then it becomes this iron triangle of survival for John McCain of Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio. He's got to hold all 3 if somehow Virginia falls out of his column. Look, the good news is Virginia hasn't fallen out of his column yet. We haven't called it, but the margin for error is gone. But, you know, I want to pick up something that Tom said. You know, we're going to be doing a lot of tributes to Tim tonight, and one of them is, by the way, we got a virtual whiteboard. And I've been wondering, would he do a state, or tonight would he just do this? Bush, Bush. Because when you look at the Elizabeth Dole loss, when you look at what happened in New Hampshire, Jean Shaheen just doesn't win. She clobbered John Sununu. This is a Republican brand that is just in bad shape. And it was no longer one state. It was one person, one guy who just has taken the party down tonight.
All right, Chuck Todd, after this break, we're going to talk among our guests to David Axelrod, who, depending on tonight's storyline, may be hailed as one of the geniuses of a winning campaign. And I'll put that question to him. Something tells me his answer is going to have more to do, in his view, with the strength of, say, the Democratic candidate than the weakness of the Republican president. But that's the great thing about interviews. We get to hear from him when our coverage continues from New York right after this.
Can you believe that we can text, email, surf the internet, even update your Facebook status right from the palm of your hand? At Sprint, we want everyone to experience all of the incredible things a 3G phone can do on a big 3G network. The wireless revolution continues. Come join us.
Introducing the Samsung Rant. For $49.99, it's the fully loaded 3G phone for everyone. Only from Sprint, only on the Now Network.
Making sure your Thanksgiving is fresh and delicious, and there's enough to actually reach the table. Walmart has unbeatable prices on everything from tender, juicy turkeys to fresh-baked breads. And we're committed to 100% freshness guaranteed. Save money, live better. Walmart.
The Hyundai Santa Fe has impressive features, like room for 7, available all-wheel drive, and America's best warranty. But the most impressive feature of all? 24 miles per gallon. After all, what good is a crossover utility vehicle if you can't afford to drive it?
Get 0% financing for up to 36 months and up to $3,000 bonus cash on a 2008 Hyundai Santa Fe.
Wednesday is the new night for justice.
I like the sound of this.
Kit's on the case on a new Knight Rider.
Allow me to drive.
Then the Wednesday premiere of Life.
I want to show you my badge.
Still here!
Solving television's most fascinating cases. And the original Wednesday crime drama is back.
Just get me the indictment.
The season premiere of Law & Order.
Justice by other means.
Knight Rider, Life, and Law & Order. Wednesday, the new night for justice on NBC.
We are back, and as promised, with the battleground map standing the way it is, with the search for 270 standing the way it is. We're coming up on the 9 o'clock hour in the East, and it's time to check in with both campaigns. David Axelrod standing by in Chicago, where they are sure hoping it will be the headquarters of a victory tonight. David, good to see you again. Last saw you in Sarasota, Florida last Thursday. I found the campaign was very confident heading into the final stretch here. What can you share with us about your internal polling, your internal numbers, how confident you are tonight, and why?
Look, we continue to feel good about everything we are seeing, and part of it has to do with what Chuck said earlier. We're making a big run in places that Democratic candidates haven't made a big run in quite some time. We have the opportunity to turn so-called red states blue. We're holding the states that John Kerry won 4 years ago. And we've seen today an explosion of vote in all over this country, people coming, sometimes waiting 3 and 4 hours or more to vote and change the direction of this country. I think, as you suggested, there's an enormous desire for that change. I think people understand that that's what Barack Obama would bring, and I think you're seeing the response. So we're very happy with what we see, but it's early yet. We want more votes to be counted, and we've waited 2 years for this night, and we can wait a few more hours to find out what happened.
David, what are you looking at in terms of numbers, turnout, and vote for your candidate? Two groups, African American and Hispanic voters in this country.
Well, I think the turnout has been very, very strong among African American voters, and some There are some places, some predominantly African-American communities, where votes by 11 this morning exceeded the entire vote in 2004. I think there was a tremendous amount of enthusiasm and pride and hope invested in Senator Obama's candidacy, but not just there. I think one of the things that's gratifying to us is that the desire for change has crossed racial lines, has crossed rural and urban lines. I think we're seeing great strength for this candidacy wherever you look. And so, yes, there's been great enthusiasm in the African-American community, but not limited to that. And among Hispanic voters, we've done very, very well tonight. I think we're winning by a 2-to-1 margin or more. And that's a great affirmation as well. So we see the country coming together behind this movement for change, and we think by the end of the night that we will have that change. But we're eager to see more cards turned over here, and waiting for you guys to punch it through your computers, and we'll punch it through ours.
Would that it were that easy. David Axelrod will say to you what we say to all the campaigns on a night like this. Good luck to you. We'll be talking to you later,
Thank you.
hopefully throughout the evening. David Axelrod in Chicago. We go to Nicole Wallace, one of the former Bush White House officials who is these days of counsel to the McCain-Palin effort. Nicole, let's start on that second point. If Hispanic turnout tonight for Obama is what the Obama campaign is saying and what some of these exit polls are showing, then how did that happen, and how did that happen specifically to your party?
Well, look, the Republican Party has really done itself, I think, a lot of harm in the tone of the immigration debate, but John McCain is a shining star in the Republican Party when it comes from really approaching immigration in a compassionate way. But look, you learn two things when you work for John McCain. One is never give up, and two, it ain't over till it's over. So I would caution anyone from starting any celebrations too early tonight. There is a lot of, hope. We're still looking. We're watching for Virginia. We've had really good internal numbers in the Southwest. We've been campaigning here hard. And I just hung up with my dad. He lives in Nevada. He rounded up his neighbors, and they went out to vote. So there are a lot of Americans who haven't voted yet or on their way to the polls. We have to wait and see what happens tonight, Brian.
Well, we're not casting any judgment on your dad's ability to campaign in his neighborhood, but all those areas you just named could equally be very, very tough minefields for your team tonight. And let's take Pennsylvania. After all, the McCain camp was openly saying just days ago it was must win, and you had a tough one there tonight.
That's right. We had our sights on Pennsylvania, and we campaigned there hard, and we're certainly disappointed. We don't feel like we have quite enough information yet, Brian. We thought it was called a little early. I spoke to Mike Duhame, our campaign's political director, before I came out here. He said he hadn't seen quite enough information yet, that the exit polls 4 years ago had it about 17 points in the wrong direction. So we're still going to keep an eye on that. But listen, no doubt we came into this night as the underdog. Our campaign was all about putting up a fight to the last day, fighting for change. I don't think there's any disagreement that both Barack Obama and John McCain are going to take this country in a new direction. And I think we'll have to wait until the end of the night to see which man came out on top.
Nicole Wallace, thank you for being with us from what is the traveling McCain-Palin campaign headquarters there in Phoenix, Arizona. By the way, Sarah Palin has joined John McCain there in Phoenix. Her motorcade arrived there within the hour. We'll take a break. When we come back, an update on states, an update on the electoral map. Someone who knows Barack Obama pretty well is here to talk to us as well when Decision 08 continues.
In serving my country, I have betrayed my conscience. We have to show the world not all of us were like him.
Any problem on Earth can be solved with high explosives.
We have to kill Hitler. Operation Valkyrie is in effect.
This is a military operation. Nothing ever goes according to plan.
Hitler's Germany has seen its last sunrise.
Valkyrie, rated PG-13. The conspiracy begins this December.
Do you know what causes most colds? The rhinovirus. And it's just waiting to run you down. Used to be, the only way to deal with your cold was to cover up the symptoms, but the cold was still there. Zicam is different. Taken at the first sign, Zicam is clinically proven to shorten a cold. So don't let a cold run you down. Get over it faster. with Zicam. And also from Zicam Cold Remedy, try our newest great-tasting Rapid Melt tablets.
Make me a wish, make it just for me, seal it with a kiss on the livery.
A sudden downpour of shoes.
So patiently wait.
And best-in-class cargo room. The all-new Chevy Traverse.